Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. So baseball is finally back. I mean, there's a little scare there where maybe it was going to happen, but it looks like it finally did. And we will have a 60-game season. So, you know, it's like about a little more than a third of a season. Now, the reason this happened is that the players and owners really couldn't come together on anything. Now, the players, they wanted to play as many games as possible to get as much money. They wanted like an 82 to 100 game season, whereas the owners, they wanted a smaller season. They wanted maybe only 40 or 50 games because it was all about the prorated contracts, stuff like that. So what that means is the more games you play, the more money the players can earn. And the owners, obviously, you know, being stingy, if you don't have to pay as much, why do it? So that was kind of the back and forth, and it really got public and really almost sort of an embarrassment. It just seems like, you know, with baseball, it's always, every time there's anybody a strike or a season up in arms, it's always played out in the papers and the news, and there's leaks, and this side looks bad, that side looks bad. But really what it came down to was, you know, with that, but it was more about the revenue sharing itself, because, you know, basically the owners and the players want to split the revenue. Well, in order to do that, the owners needed to open their books and say, hey, how much you guys do really earn from, you know, the TV, the concession stands, the merchandise and all this stuff. And it's a lot about the players union just feel, hey, you know, maybe you guys been, you know, hiding money from us over the years. Maybe we should have more. You know, being very skeptical of the owners. So kind of, you know, caused a rift where, you know, next time there's going to be a labor agreement, stuff is going to come up again. And again, the owners didn't really want to open the book, so that's why they couldn't come together on it. So Commissioner Manfred finally stepped in and said, hey, look, I'm just going to you know, stamp, you know, put my foot down in the situation. I'm proposing 60 games. Gave it to the baseball owners. They said okay with it. Gave it to the players union. Took a few days, but they finally okayed it. So around June 22nd, they finally say, all right, we'll have baseball. So finally it's in the book. You got 60 games. And even Manfred said that probably more than 60 games, it was probably not going to be achievable anyway. So 60 was probably the number they had in their mind. So again, we'll have a 60-game season starting July 24th. Now, for the Yankees and a small number of teams, will be July 23rd. But yes, we will have baseball, so the Yankees will have spring training again, as part due, and then have a baseball season. So, Yankees opener will be in Washington against the Nationals. And you can almost bet the bank it's going to be Cole versus Scherzer, at the very least Cole versus Strasburg, who the Nationals will be signing again. The Nationals, they are the defending champions, by the way. So, and the way the schedule is going to work out now, it's all about, you know, and this is one of the proposals you heard, you know, back in April of, you know, keeping teams in certain regions and not have such the cross-country travel. So really nationally, American League is not going to mean as much. So it's all going to be about the region. So the Yankees, of course, are going to play all their fellow AL East teams. But in terms of the interleague as well, there are other teams they're going to face. They're going to be in the NL East. So the Yankees are looking at about, you know, you got 10 teams basically, and maybe they'll have about 6 games against each. Again, they're still really finalizing the schedule, but at least we do know that the opening game is going to be the 23rd against the Nationals, and it'll probably be like, you know, the big, you know, the game of the day, something like that. They'll probably use it to just because it's the Yankees and the defending champion Nationals. That'll be a big highlight game. And if you look at the Yankees schedule, you know, the way it works out, all right, now they're going to have teams like bottom feeders, such as the Orioles are probably going to be terrible. You could pack up your wins against them. And you look at, if they're going to face the NL East, you look at a team like the Marlins who are going to be terrible this season, so you could stack up your wins against them. And you got those middle-of-the-road teams, such as like the Toronto Blue Jays. You know, you could really get some, you know, they're not a great team, they're an okay team, but you could really pack up some wins there. But also it's going to be tough. You can have some tough teams because, you know, the Braves are going to be tough. Phillies are probably going to be tough. Now they got Joe Girardi, and, you know, Harper kind of got, you know, starting to play a little better over there. You got, of course, the defending champion Nationals you got to contend with. The Mets are going to be pretty good. I mean, again, they had a pretty darn good second half of the season. And again, if they weren't so terrible in the first half, could have been a wild card team. So the Yankees got to deal with them. And, of course, the Yankees in their own division got to deal with Tampa, is always tough. And the Boston Red Sox, doesn't seem like they're going to have a good season. Again, they kind of, you know, Sale's going to have Tommy John surgery. They got rid of Mookie Betts, got rid of Price, even though Yankees always beat up Price. But Boston will always still be tough, but still, so it's not going to be an easy schedule for the Yankees. And again, only 60 games to play with. You really can't fool around. You can't fall behind because there's no makeup time. So, you know, the Yankees kind of have to get out of the gate and just make sure whether they're the, you know, AL East champion or one of the wild card things. And that's another thing with this. It's not really going to change the structure. In terms of the playoffs, that's still going to be the same. You'll still have a division, 3 division winners, your typical 2 wild card teams. They fight it out for that 1 game one-game playoff, and then that's your wild card team. So the playoff structure hasn't changed in that regard, so that's a good thing. But we'll get into some other rules because they are throwing in some funky rules with this as well. Now, one of the good benefits of this is that, of course, I guess with the funkiness and having kind of spring training on and off, is that they're going to enact the DH in both leagues. So yes, you will have the DH in the National League and the American League for the whole season, actually, and this benefits the Yankees, especially when they're on the road for those NL East games. So good thing for the Yankees, because now you have a situation where you could have Judge and Stan in the same lineup for games against the NL East rivals. And if things go the way they should with the scheduling, you figure the season will end around September 27th, which more or less is usually when the season ends under normal circumstances, usually that last week of September. And then, of course, you have early October, you'll have your standard playoffs. So in terms of when the season would end, it would be normal. Like people talk about, oh my God, baseball's going to go until November or something like that and all these crazy things. No, it's not going to happen. It'll be a normal October, and probably by the end of October, you'll have your World Series and then declare a champion. So the season won't really get extended in that regard. So that's good, because again, people are talking about maybe if they have a 40-game season, but maybe they extend the playoffs to make it longer. But then now you're looking at playing baseball possibly in November, which nobody wants to sit through a freezing cold weather for a baseball game. Now, originally the Yankees were going to re-report down to Tampa, but then of course the COVID started spiking up against Florida. Again, Florida is one of the states that opened up very early, and things were seeming to go smooth. But now they've been seeing a spike of COVID-19 cases, so. Instead of having the Yankees down there, which maybe doesn't make sense, maybe not the safest thing, they actually got the okay to come back up. Cuomo gave them the okay, so actually they're doing spring training right now. This very second. You can see them maybe. Now, in terms of when can you actually see fans in the stands, yet to be determined, not for this, we don't even know yet for the season, but Hal Steinbrenner did recently announce that yes, at some point we will see fans in the stands at some point. Really hasn't given a firm date, but of course, it'll be all the social distancing guidelines, probably a seat here and then maybe 3 empty seats and someone next there. So not a firm date, and you have to get the okay from the governor and stuff like that, and he's actually been saying that the governor's been encouraging it. Doesn't really seem like it, but I guess maybe the governor does, I don't know, whatever, maybe it generates business or so forth, or maybe he's just paying lip service, but Hal did say at some point you will see fans in the stands. How much your ticket price will be, who knows? Now back to the Yankees. So the Yankees do benefit a little bit by the delay of the season, because by early April they were not going to have a full squad. I mean, they had a number of players having off-season surgeries and injuries and nursing injuries, such as Stanton, and you had, of course, with Hicks with his Tommy John surgery. So now that the Yankees are starting the season in July, essentially, they'll at least be able to start with a full squad, which is good news, again, because they're going to need to win as many games as possible just because the season's so short. So Aaron Hicks, he is taking his swings again. He had Tommy John surgery off season, even though he hit a big 3-run home run in the playoffs, but he got that surgery, got taken care of, so he'll be back. Stanton was nursing a strained calf in the original spring training. He'll be back there as well. And then, of course, you have James Paxton, had that weird little lower back lumbar injury, which I don't want to get into the graphics, but anyway, he got that taken care of, so he'll be good to go opening day. But the big question is going to be Aaron Judge. Now, the biggest, of course, uncertainty is Aaron Judge. If the season started in April, he was definitely not going to be available. Nursing that cracked rib going back to last season when he did the diving catch, and at first no one really knew what it was. No one picked it up in the off season, which is incredible. And yeah, chances are he was not going to be ready for the start of the season anyway. And even really, early in June, it said, well, he's starting to hit off the tee a little bit. And Cashman did confirm, yes, he will be on the opening day roster, so that's good news. He is taking swings, but again, there's a good possibility he might be delayed a week or two. Who knows? I mean, really, it's hard to tell that. And again, these games are so crucial. You need your best players in there. And of course, for the Yankees, he is one of the best players, not just because of the home run power, but just his at-bats. He takes a lot of walks. He draws a lot of pitches. I mean, you put him and Stanton and Hicks, you can maybe match them back to back. Very tough on opposing pitches, and you don't have them in that lineup. I know the Yankees did it last year. They pulled all these guys like Talkin up and Luke Voigt, and you got all these guys that come up and do surprising things. But of course, you need a captain there who Aaron Judge kind of is for the Yankees. So hopefully he's ready to go to start the season. Again, they need him because for 2020 it's going to be very crucial. Hey, Bernie finally got a gate. And, the local business is going to suffer. Yes, it's great. Maybe at some point fans will be back in the stands, but then it's kind of like weird. Like, where do you go to watch the games? And, of course, around here, the local businesses, they depend on the fans coming here first for, before the game and maybe for the first, second inning. having a couple of drinks, like 10 of them, and then going to the game. Well, you know, if you can't get fans in the stands, you know, are people going to come to stands? I get it, stands anyway. But, you know, we also have Billy's down there down the block. I mean, it's kind of weird, you know, how this is going to go in terms of the fan perspective. Of course, you always watch home, you know, on the general TV, but like, all right, well, are people going to maybe come here, like, knowing that the Yankees are right down the block to watch the game here? Maybe something cool to do, but if you sit down, do you wear your mask? Do you not wear your mask? Do you put it on? Do you take it off? It's going to be kind of weird, but, you know, I just think it'd be kind of fun in a way. It's something different. It could be like an event. Hey, you know, before someone say, hey, you want to come over to watch a game? Like, yeah, no, because there's like 162 of them. But now if you're like, hey, you want to watch a game? Yeah, because maybe it's like an event. So maybe you go out with your buddies to a place, or maybe you come down the stands and just, you know, be around the Yankees when things are going on. So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully enough people come in to service the bars and the stores and stuff like that, so at least they could stay in business. Again, a lot of people just took a bad hit. You know, just again, people were not coming here for like 2 or 3 months, not buying merchandise and not buying food, not buying beer. So you know, so maybe, you know, if they start, maybe people at least come down here just to be, you know, in the environment. Now, in addition to the DH rule for both the American and National League, now, another little caveat to throw in there just for this special reduced 2020 season is that now in the extra innings, they're going to have that rule they had, you know, in the single A minors last year, which we all thought was a joke, was then in an extra innings, you start a player at second base. And a lot of this, of course, is just to get games done quicker. Of course, again, the longer you keep the players on the field and people together, more chance that the virus could spread or people could catch a bug. So the idea is let's get these games over as soon as possible. So for the season, they can enact that rule. So in extra innings, basically, if the game's not decided after 9, you start off the next inning with a runner on second base and with no outs. So basically, it's assumed that pretty much that it's almost like, you know, it's almost like kids in like a wiffle ball game, just making up stuff. So what happens is that whichever batter is up, the preceding batter will start on the second base. So it's almost like the pretending that, well, let's just pretend so-and-so got a hit and there was a fielding error and somehow someone ended up on second base, or there was a throwing error and the person ended up on second base somehow. So let's just say you're the third place hitter and it's your turn at bat. So what they'll do is they'll take the second place hitter, whoever was the second place hitter, and start that person at second base. And then, of course, well, you figure out that at point, it's no outs, a runner on second, and, well, it's so much easier to score, so they figure the game will end quicker. And, you know, it's kind of, maybe, you know, it might be a good thing in the long haul, because you see a lot of times in extra inning games, people just, you know, figure out, I'm just going to hit a game-winning, a walk-off home run, and that'll be the end of it. So at least now it entices a little more what you call like a small ball. Maybe you'll bunt the runner over, or maybe you'll hit the contact versus, you know, always waiting for a home run. So it might be a better thing for baseball overall, with people complaining that, hey, there's too many home runs and not enough contact anymore, so now this will inspire more contact. So it could be maybe in the long run, maybe it's a good thing, but it's all about just getting the games done quicker, and as well as just the way the roster is going to be. And it's like, hey, look, we just don't want those like 18-inning games where you're unloading all your pitchers and screws everything up, because they don't even know what the schedule is going to look like yet, and they don't want, like, you know, delays and all this stuff, because who knows, you're going to have some rain delay games in there as well, and you have to make those up, and maybe some double headers. So they just want to get these games. So again, for this season only, you will see the runner at second base. Now, even though there is a runner at second, obviously no one's going to be charged with a fielding error or anything like that. And for the pitcher, you figure, well, hey, that's a raw deal for a pitcher. You come on and there's a runner on second, that's not your responsibility, and you're going to lose the game, that goes against the stats. No, the loss will not go against that pitcher. So in that terms, that's the good thing. You know, it's not like, so for example, say Chapman's out there and, you know, someone just gets a little blooper, goes through the infield, and someone comes around to score. Chapman's not going to get a loss or blown save, so it doesn't hurt his stats in that way. So in that way, it's good. Of course, he probably feels terrible for, you know, losing the game, but at least in terms of people's stats, which is how people get paid and stuff like that with their agents and everything, it's not going to affect their stats, but it's going to obviously, you know, it'll just say, oh man, I lost the game. So kind of different, a whole other psyche, because a lot of these, you know, especially someone like a Chapman, or if you're a closer that's been doing this for a number of years, you just come with that mindset, like, and I'm not going to let anyone on base, and you pitch from the full windup. Well, now there's a runner on second, you do the sidestep. It's just like, it's going to play with their minds a little bit, so it may take a while to get adjusted to it, but it's the same rules for everybody. Again, I don't like it at all, because it's not really baseball in that regard, but again, this is a bit of a funky season, so if it's just for this season, I can live with it. Now, as for the entire baseball roster, now originally to start the season, it was going to be a 26-man roster, upgraded one player from the typical 25-man roster, which has been, pretty much the norm for a long time in baseball. So they were going to have 26 originally, but of course, once all the stuff broke in terms of this new 2020 season we have here, they're going to move it up a little bit. So it's actually going to be a 30-man roster to start the season with. Now, that's just to start the season. After 2 weeks, that shrinks down to a 28-man roster, and then after 4 weeks, it shrinks down to that original proposed 26-man roster. And I guess it's a good idea just to start the season with, again, just the whole funkiness of it, the way that playing in this different era, but mainly because of that whole 3-batter minimum bullpen rule. You're going to want some extra arms up there just until everyone kind of gets adjusted how they're going to approach this. So that's good in that regard. Give a few more players in there early on to get adjusted, and then you wean down to the original 26-man roster. Now, in terms of getting players or trading players, stuff like that, there still will be a trade deadline, but instead of the traditional July 31st, it's going to be moved back to August 31st. So you still have a trade deadline. It's kind of weird, having a player play for you for like 20 or 30 games and then you trade him possibly, but it could happen. So we'll see that. I wouldn't expect any big blockbuster trades just within the situation, because again, there's just too many things up in the air in terms of that, and plus really in terms of entire baseball, there's going to be no minor leagues, so no minor league baseball. So it's, when you have a trade, a lot of times you look at minor leaguers from other teams to say, all right, I want to trade for that guy, but if you're not even seeing the guy playing, there's really not much motivation to want to make a trade. So it's going to affect that in that regard, and it's also going to stunt the growth of players just to try to that are single, double A from enhancing their skills, and they're not going to be able to showcase. So there will be a trade deadline, but again, I'm not going to see any big blockbuster deals. And in terms of baseball stuff, how they're going to set this up in terms of just sitting on the bench, I mean, there's been talks about, you're going to social distance the players on the benches perhaps, or even maybe have them sitting in the front row of the luxury seats, and they just kind of walk in with that, and maybe they walk in with their walk-on music. So it's going to be kind of weird how they get adjusted to it. And there's a 62-page manual of all these different health rules. No licking your fingers, no spitting. Maybe they got to after a certain number of people touch the ball, they have to get rid of it and get a new ball, for example. So a pitcher might touch the ball gets hit to the second baseman throws it out to the shortstop. Well, you got 3 people touch the ball, maybe now you got to toss it because you got all these fingers and hands on the ball. And in terms of the players themselves, when they're sitting on the bench, it's are they gonna wear the mask, not wear the mask, not wear the mask? So how that's gonna be handled if they're on the base? You have a first baseman holding the runner on first. Well, they're close to each other, so they have to wear a mask. So that's yet to be determined. We'll see how that plays out. But in terms of the rosters, though, give all the teams a few more players to play with and let them adjust down to that 26 games. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out when actually the players are sitting in the stands and or sitting in the dugout, and maybe they'll be rooting on that player. So that'll probably be different. It'll be fun to watch. And again, I've been saying this for a while. For the past couple of months, I just think it gives the players now an idea to showcase their personality, show themselves, and be a little more cheery, be a little more happy, have a little more personality, which in the long run, helps sell the game a little better. Now, not every player is on board with this. Some are actually locking themselves out of the season. Some high-profile names, such as Ian Desmond, Ryan Zimmerman, are just opting out of the season, don't want to play in it just because of these conditions, even though, again, baseball sent out a whole manual of how, they're going to keep everyone safe with all the hotel room and the travel and the plane, stuff like that. But some baseball players, which you can understand, are just, hey, look, I'm just not going to risk it this season, even if I got to lose a few million dollars or just not play at all, or how that works out. To them, it's not worth it. So, it seems like some players are not on board. In terms of the Yankees, you haven't really hearing that. It seems like everyone's on board for it. Everyone's ready to go, so that's a good sign. You don't see any dissension in that regard. But again, some players are still trepidatious about this, and we'll see what happens. There could be a situation where maybe a few players get sick from a team, and it's going to be weird what happens. Do you shut down baseball? Do you shut down the team itself? Do you just scrap the whole season? So, they're taking this big leap forward, but you're not going to take this big leap if you feel that, at some point we got to stop the season. So, unless it gets real bad, which could possibly happen. I mean, it is a risky situation, but again, it doesn't feel like they would go ahead with this unless they feel all right, even if we got a few players sick, we're still just going to march ahead. And look, if we got to call up some players for the minors to just replace them, that's what you got to do. But baseball is going to be very vigilant in testing the players. So basically every other day they get tested for the COVID. And of course, anything if they test positive for it or show a fever over 100.4, yanked it right out, separated from the team, isolated. Then I guess they spend their 14, 15 days in isolation. So, baseball's going to be on top of it. And then the testing goes to some lab in Utah, and I guess they get the results right away and send it back to the team. So they're going to be testing these players as much as possible. It's also testing the coaches and the people that are around the team. And again, you just don't see a situation where, I don't think reporters are going to be able to get close to the team. Everything's going to have to be like a Zoom sort of interview after the game. So, it's just the way it is. So they're going to, stay on top of the players in that regard. So if someone does crop up and show a sign, they can pull and isolate that player as soon as possible. And, we've been seeing some star athletes get it. It seemed like half the New Jersey Nets got it right away. But one thing you got to consider about these, these are top athletes. So, in terms of, I don't think it'll be a life-threatening situation for them. It seems like when this virus hit, it hit certain type of people. Usually you have a pre-existing condition, you have diabetes, maybe they're in the best of shape and stuff like that. These are top athletes, usually well-conditioned and young guys in their 20s and 30s. So, if they get it, it's not a good thing, but it's more for them is maybe just like messed up for a couple of days and then they're feeling a little better, where it's an ordinary person. It's like a ton of bricks. But let's say for someone like Aaron Judge, you'll probably shake it off. And a lot of these athletes that have been testing positive, a lot of them didn't even realize they even had it. But a real bummer for the Yankees for the 2020 season, as they were going to play that Field of Dreams games against the Chicago White Sox, replaying that field, that funky field where they were going to build out in the middle of like Idaho or North Dakota, wherever the hell the damn thing is. But unfortunately, just because of the way they're structuring the season, where it's regional teams, well, White Sox are Central team, and of course Central are playing the Central. So instead of the Yankees being the visiting player for that, it's going to be instead the St. Louis Cardinals. So yes, there would be no, unfortunately, Yankees and White Sox at the Field of Dreams game. Maybe they'll push it back to next season like that. So instead, it's going to be Cardinals and White Sox, which it's good in one regard because it's two traditional teams. You don't want to see like a new team like the Diamondbacks play there, which would be crazy. But I can at least understand. Okay, Cardinal. If you're going to pick a team, I'd rather have being the Cardinals. But it was going to be cool though, set up to have the Yankees play the White Sox at the stadium, because you have all those cornfields out there, and then you have like Aaron Judge hit a home run into the cornfields, or like Aaron Hicks doing a diving catch and then going through the cornfield, or something where like someone hits a home run and like the lights explode like the movie Natural. It would have been pretty cool, but unfortunately the Yankees are going to have to miss out on that. If you want to take some positives from this, just the way this whole season is going on, it should actually take a lot of pressure off of Garrett Cole. Now, traditionally, Yankees, anytime they bring in these big name pitcher aces, whether it was like a Roger Clemens, a Mike Mussina, Randy Johnson, there's always that, pressure right away. All right, you got to be great and start the season. All the focus is on you. You got to be that. Especially, same with Tanaka. Now, some pitchers do well with it, it's like a Tanaka or Mussina, and some, have a little growing pains, like Roger Clemens and like Randy Johnson a little bit, where it's not themselves and the fans get on. I'm like, hey, we thought you were this great pitcher. Why not this? So for Garrett Cole, a lot of that's taken off now. He seems to be a cool character as it is and kind of fit in right away. So I think he would have been fine regardless. But really, since all this stuff has happened, you almost forget about Garrett Cole, that they spent $324 million on him, and he's like this big ace pitcher. So I think this is helping him ease right in, because I think so much time has passed where you almost feel like he's been around so long now. He is one of the guys. So even if he doesn't get off to the greatest start, his first couple starts, it's not really the end of the world. People aren't going to be dogging him and booing him. Well, first of all, there's no fans in the stands to boo anyway, so that should help a lot. But I just think it's an easy transition for him. And then by the time you get to next season, 2021, it's like he's one of the boys that's been there for a while. And speaking of starting pitchers, another benefit of having a shortened season is that now you don't have to micromanage their innings as much, mainly the starters, and you actually let them go long because, well, you don't have to worry about the innings limit, because they're pretty much. You lost three months of the season already, pretty much. So, their normal, like a starting pitcher normally handles around 200, 230 plus innings a season. Well, there's plenty of time for that. So you don't have to be so quick to yank them out of the game in that regard. So that's one positive. You actually push your starting pitches longer. And again, you might even see that just because there's new 3 batter minimum rule and stuff like that. Maybe you're not going to be so quick to go to the bullpen as you were in years past. So, that's one good benefit of this. Just let the players play in that regard. You don't have to worry about beating them up, because they have to get their endurance back a little bit and build up their strength, which they'll do in the spring training. But once the season gets underway, it's only playing like barely 1/3 of his season, so they should be pretty fresh the whole way. And you might see some players, not get burnt out in October. For example, like Adam Ottavino, he was great for the Yankees the whole season, but you could just tell, during the playoffs, especially the Houston series, he was burnt out. He really couldn't get anyone out, and he's got knocked around a little bit. Well, you'll have your players fresher by the end of the season, which is a good thing. So that'll be a positive in that regard. And you might see some funkiness with the starting rotation. For example, the Tampa Bay Rays, who are usually ahead of everybody with this stuff, whether it's going back to Joe Madden with all the funky defensive shifts, or them having a bullpen game and then everyone else copying that in baseball. Well, maybe see something like a 4-man rotation, which we used to have back in the 80s. Again, you could push your starters more, so maybe you don't need a 5th starter. So possibly everyone's talking about who's the Yankees' 5th starter. Well, maybe they just go with Cole and Tanaka and Paxton and Happen. That's it. Maybe you don't need Montgomery, or you just slip in there once in a while. So some benefits to having the shorter season again is that you can just push your starters and push your position players harder, and when you get back to October, everyone's still relatively fresh. And it's great that baseball is back for baseball fans, but specifically for the Yankees and Yankees fans, it's great it's back that we'll see Brett Gardner at least for one more season. Would have been a shame for him to have a great season last year where he hit his career high in home runs. Comes back for another year, but then there's no baseball, he's shut down, then he kind of leaves that way. He probably would have been able to get another contract in 2021 possibly, at least with another team. Can't really guarantee it would have been the Yankees, but at least you'll know he'll be back for the Yankees for at least one more season. And he could get sort of if he feels like it's going to be the last season for him, at least he can kind of get that goodbye he deserves, a little bit of a goodbye act, sort of like on the way out the door. I don't think he'll retire because he'll still be good enough to play for another team. But at least in terms of the Yankees, he'll get a good proper goodbye if it's going to end up being his last season. Hopefully it isn't, but again, he's been around for a while. He's going to be 36 years old, the longest tenured Yankee, and he's going to be sort of that quiet leader in the clubhouse. Again, he's not a demonstrative guy, but kind of like him and CC were kind of those kind of quiet leaders in the clubhouse. Well, CC is gone, so really now Brett Gardner is that guy. And if his last season, at least he'll get a nice goodbye from the Yankee organization, and maybe at some point if fans are in the stands to kind of give him a final hats off round of applause, which he deserves. Really good, gritty, kind of really defines what a Yankee is. It's just good, gritty type of a player, quiet player. This goes about his business, very dependable. So at least he'll get the proper send off that he deserves. Big news, baseball's back, and if they let fans in the stands now, it's gonna be hard. Like, how do you root? Obviously there's gonna be less people there. There'll be less noise, and do you have to have your mask on the whole time? So how do you yell, "Let's go Yankees"? It's gonna be muffled with the mask. So do you go, "Let's go Yankees, let's go"? You see like that. Maybe you gotta clap your hands more. Maybe you gotta take your shoes off and bang them together. I don't know. And of course, merchandising. They're gonna jump all over it. That. You'll have the Luke Voigt number 59 mask, or maybe you'll get the face of your favorite Yankee, so it's like your eyes, but it's like the lower jaw of Masahiro Tanaka with that. Getting aboard could be kind of funky, and in terms of going to the bathroom, well, that'll be the one good thing, because usually by the second inning, like the bathrooms are destroyed, so I guess people will be a little more clean when they go in there. You'll have, not the floor wet up, people go to the bathroom the way they should go to the bathroom, not trash the place after the second inning. So that'll be good in that regard. And in terms of the alcohol consumption, I don't know, do you have to keep your mask on but then go like that with the beer? How's that gonna work? Do you put a hole in? Do you sip the beer through a straw? We don't know about that. The hot dog, you go like that and you just stick the hot dog in that way. Tougher one's gonna be Dippin' Dots, because they melt fast. So if you go like that and the Dippin' Dot melts, it gets all over the mask. So now, since fans are not going to be in the stands right away, you have at least a month or two to train this. So go home right now in your home. You want to train how you want to do this. How you want to get the hot dog going, the beer going, the Dippin' Dots, and cotton candy can be tough too, because when you rip the cotton candy and your fingers get a little sticky, and then you touch your mask and you get those sugar crystals all over your mask. It's actually going to get kind of nasty. Actually, I think about it, maybe I don't want to be in the stands.